And we're live with Alanja Forsberg. And now I already feel like hitting rewind because I mispronounced that name. Hi. Alanja and I are meeting here today to look into leadership, not just any type of leadership, because billions of books have been written about that and it still hasn't been figured out. Um, We're looking at leadership in the context of emergence, of regeneration, of trying to make the impossible possible in the real world, where it's not only about, building a business, making money, having your own self, your own family on the line, potentially, if you fail, if you go bankrupt. But we're talking about leadership in the context of people that are trying to build a better world, trying to do that while making it work financially for themselves and for the projects they're creating. And all the while doing that in an environment that is changing and shifting ever more quickly. And that in and of itself probably is challenge enough. But not only is it the question of how do we navigate through that for ourselves, through all that uncertainty, through all that not knowing, um, but how do we stay stable when other people rely on us to kind of know the way and be like, yes, this is all okay. It's not a problem. We're just going to keep going and we'll figure it out. Um, let's start with history for a second. Alanya, you and I met 4 years ago on the conference where I first made the bold announcement that I'm going to build villages. And boy, did I not know what I was getting myself into. And I remember to this day how I met you. There was this very nice young man. Well, he actually wasn't that young anymore, speaking on a panel, and he was admittedly blabbing on a bit. So it was the opposite of a clear direction, of a clear impact that he was delivering to the audience. And at least the way I remember it, correct me if I'm making things up, but the way I remembered, you unmuted yourself and you said, "Look, I mean this in a loving way, but grow up and grow some balls." And I was like, I love her. I gotta talk to this woman. Like this is who I need because this is so easy on this path to fall prey to our own bullshit. And this looks like somebody who can help me with that.
Yeah, it sounds like me. So you're probably right. Yeah. When I've traveled all over, worked in United States with sustainable leaders. I worked in Europe. I worked in now lately in the Middle East. Point out that I didn't say the Middle East, but I say the Middle East. Mm, And I meet people everywhere that says like, "Oh, Alana, look at this idea. I have this land. We're going to build like sustainable, regenerative. We're going to do this and that and look at the papers." And I say, "Well, okay, beautiful. Let me have a look upon it and I will put it on the wall with all the other ones. And then you'll have my attention when you have the people that are going to be at home there. Because that really is the key. We are in lack of grown-ups in this world. And if we are going to build sustainable collective places, we need to reconfigure what the elders had before. Not with the same kind of like, in a way, we'll have to build a new religion.
Mhm.
It's bad to say religion, but it's like, um, if you're going to have boundaries, you can use Jesus or Muhammad said this or that or that or this or that. If we're now coming together in a new way, we will have to find new rules to live under and underneath and within. Because if you think that humans can just assemble and everything will be perfect, a little bit naive, very naive. So my thing is that We need to look upon how can we help these communities grow into more and more capacities of authenticity, more and more capacities of resilience, more and more capacities of conflict solving, like how to work with things that we are experiencing, and also to learn to live the joy of it. Like, because if we don't have something to look forward that is positive, like something we won't be able to create it. So there needs to be a very good balance there, because it's so easy to get together as a group. Hallelujah, everything is fine. And after some weeks like this one, like he's not doing what he should have done or what, and we start doing that. If we don't have, like, we're doing this for ourselves, but also for humanity. And we also need to have the focus on the goodness, the beauty, and the courageous will to create it.
Yeah.
And the biggest key for me in any kind of creation is to have patience enough to see what emerges. And that's painful. It's painful to sit and watch and to not just, oh, I have a good idea, let's go. Oh no, my idea is better. Okay, then step down, sit and wait in the pain until something emerges from an authentic place, whether that is an intuition that comes to a body to someone, or there's a new idea, or whatever that is. But we forget that creation is a gift you can't force. You have to be willing to listen. And that's what I'm meaning by being willing to have a kind of new religion or something new to look forward to, where humans can actually work together in a way that there's a win-win,
Yeah.
even when there feels bad.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? We do that by learning ourselves first, learning to be authentic, learning to be courageous, learning resilience. And young people today, they are not taught this. There is no school class that teaches resilience. There's no school class that teaches courage. And no school class teaching surrender, is there?
I love that you're saying that. I mean, a key part of what we're trying to do in the physical places, in the hubs, in the villages, right, is because they lend themselves to being built, to being developed with volunteers, with young people, is to provide that curriculum that they can learn this on the ground. And I want to touch on several points that you brought. One, this individual journey, I think we'll spend most of the call on that because, this is probably the thing we know best yet on a systemic level. How do we do this in groups? We don't have answers, but maybe we have, certain tools that have proven to work. And what we're really trying to do here, what these conversations are part of, is to build a scaffolding. And by scaffolding, I mean is what you touched upon with the communities, having clear agreements in place. How is conflict handled? Where is the red line when somebody stops being a part of a community? Having that predefined, I mean, it's absolutely necessary. Um, I'm tempted to take us on a sidetrack, right? Because today, Fleming and Mette were in the press. They had this beautiful project in Sweden, Stetsons, and apparently they flew and they left behind a huge tax debt and huge waste. And apparently they did not treat their land entirely right. I don't know any of this yet. I can't verify this. But what I'm pointing to is there is so much shadow at work, as is always the case when it's humans doing human stuff. So we need to put scaffolding in place that mitigates the damage of that from the beginning, that it's excluded from the systemic design, that the whole project can come down, the whole community can come down because some people, fall. But the key conversation to me that we're having here is we, the world, us as individuals, certainly me personally, for the largest part, we have been evolving from pain, right? We have been driven to change. We have been forced to look deeper because, the old ways weren't working. And I used to look at the world 10 years ago and was like, yeah, the pain is going to be coming and then we're going to have to change. But are we going to have the solutions in place? Are we going to have constructive paths in place? Or are people simply going to revert back to, the safe solutions, the autocrats, the let's protect ourselves against everything and go back into our caves? Um, the opportunity that we have here and the scaffolding that we're building, I think, is to stop being driven by pain. I'm not saying avoid pain, that's always going to be a fact of life, but stop being driven by it and start being drawn by that joy. Start building scaffolding that it becomes easier to move towards something, evolve towards, this deeper, quiet, joyful part in us that knows what the right next step to do is at any given point. And as you pointed out, like that's probably one of the hardest skills to learn in our space, to be okay with not knowing and not move because we think we have to do something right now from pressure, from fear, but wait until the signal is clear. Not move from noise, move from signal.
I think it's like, you see, that's not so easy. If you're young and you have experienced a lot and you have a lot of trauma in your body, you have a lot of betrayal, you've been put down, you've been this and that. If that didn't make you resilient, it actually hurt you more. The next time you were bullied, and the time after that you were bullied, and the time after that. And that is not met or resolved. You actually need to go to that pain. For that pain not to drive you, it's too big pain to be able to see the joy.
Yep.
And that's the difficulty here. You need to have you cannot ask young people to give before they have received. And that is the big issue here. So for people who are over the 40s and the 50s, yes, we are to give back. But the people 20, 30, up to 40, they are to receive a partner, a home, a place to live, a job, to wake up, clean up, and grow up, literally. So we're so like, and then you can say, oh yeah, but young people today, they're star seeds. Whatever I've seen of star seeds, they're in just as much pain as anyone else. But the hope should be held by people that have worked through that, that are models, that are people that are free, that has worked through their shit and has felt and tasted and time and again adjusted their leadership. And this is why I'm talking about leadership, because you can't come to good leadership before you acknowledge and work on your shit. Like, right? So what I say is that I can open a container. We can even open up a collective where people live together and say, hey, there's going to be a lot of leadership and a lot of leadership in this group, right? So you need to learn to have discernment, like also understanding that the youth comes with good ideas, with a lot of power, with a lot of courage, with a lot of new thinking and all good. The elder says, yeah, all good, but down the line, that will lead to this and that and this and that. Can we talk so we can adjust it so that it becomes something new that has the values that we need to have and hold? Because if we cannot live with the values, and to me, it's like there are deep values that can hold a community in ways that helps both young and old, to uh, accept, respect, and to also be a holder of the value
Yeah.
together instead of fighting over my project, your project, my wisdom, your wisdom. Da, 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 da. So it needs to lead down to a set of values that everyone that is this community is willing to work by, right? So even if I do a group and I have one Muslim, one Christian, two Jews, three Druids, and then five Judes or whatever, it's actually not that difficult to get to the good values that everyone will agree upon
Yeah.
if you take the time to do it. And so I think that this is the thing by us creating something new, you have to align with the vision that is created for the community you want to get into.
Mhm.
And there will be different communities, right?
Yeah.
And there will be different values in different communities. So you need to find the community that has the values that correlates with you. Because then you can go in and make it stronger, right?
Yeah.
So actually the vision and the value and the strategy, like what is this cluster of humans trying to do is the core thing to uh, build schools so that the children becomes genius, all of them? Or is it like to make new plants in the world? Or is it to be food sustainable? Or what is it?
Yeah.
And does this correlate with your values? And if so, go in and make it better. Go in and grow it up and grow yourself up in it.
I was going to say, right, once we grow up a little bit more, the exact values don't matter so much. Like my sense is that people automatically start doing constructive things. And if somebody else has different values, well, so be it. I mean, we have always said what we're doing, it needs to be built place by place and person to person. And the beauty of that stretches quite far because what we're beginning to see with the bioregional centers, for example, in France, we're in an area, our mayor is right wing, but he cares about his region, he cares about his home. And the traditional regenerative left wing projects care about their home. And they're all coming together and they're meeting each other as people that care about their home. So, right when they actually start interacting with one another and get past the barriers of who is on which side, beautiful stuff happens. So, but the key question to me is before we even get to do all of this at some systemic scale, we need many, 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 many more grown-ups. And the thing that awes me a little bit, like I know how much time I've put into growing up over my life. Uh, I don't think it's an understatement that I've been a bit obsessed. And I would consider myself, a spiritual teenager on my not so great days and maybe in my very early 20s on the good days. So how do we actually get to a place where, we have many people who are stable, mature adults in their spiritual 30s that can hold this shit?
And that's the big question because it's so what I've seen, and I've seen thousands of people because I've been all over, like everyone wants to be a part of it, but they don't want to take the responsibility.
Yeah.
And it is a responsibility to hold the field, it is a responsibility. Sorry for my language. So we need to attract field holders
Yeah.
and they need to be grown up enough to not have my will or the highway. Like that's a challenge because many people have created something and have become grown-ups, but they have their own babies
Yeah.
and they're clinging to their babies. And that might be a product or a retreat or whatever, you've written books or whatever. But to really have that as a devotion in your life to be a grown up, I haven't seen very many. I haven't. And so this is why I'm like, we need to create a grown up school. Like, really. Yeah. Like, it is like we've lost so much in the cultures now where elders and young are split off. We've lost so much. Also, because the religion is in transition
Yeah,
to become more liberal everywhere. So it doesn't help. Like, you can't use the old, like, do as Jesus says or Muhammad, because it won't work.
yeah,
So you have to have a different integrity, and that kind of integrity a person will grow through life. And when you get older, in the end, you're like, I've done mine. Like, not, right?
yeah,
How can we make it fun again for people that are at home in themselves to be willing to be in a home for humanity?
yeah,
That's my question. How can we make that attractive? How can we, there has to be something in it for them as well,
yeah,
not only work, 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 work.
yeah. Well, I got a three-part answer to that, or the beginnings of an answer. I mean, the one thing that we are beginning to do here today is, talk about it, talk to people who are trying to figure this out, talk to people who have done this. Um, and I guess, the answer is going to be the same from all of them, which is I'm still figuring it out myself. But, here is what I've learned along the way. Because like with this type of work, it's just, I suspect, a never ending story of you grow into a certain degree of this work, and then a next step needs to be taken, and it demands even more of you, right? It's like, yeah, yeah, no, you're not done. There's more growth to do,
There
more
is,
to uncover.
yeah, but the beauty is that if you have people that are willing to learn, that is the difference. So it's like for me, like the transition that I'm in now, like there are people that can take over my baby, like what I created, right? And it feels natural and it's good and it's new blood is coming in and they will expand it in their way. But me as the source, I'm stepping down, I'm giving the source over. And so it's time for them to expand or whatever that is. But what I'm sensing is that there are so many elders that have done something that is like holding like, the torch. But also, you will see if you actually go to the places like in Spain that has had like a culture place for 30 years running retreats, there's always one old person that's been holding it all together.
Yeah,
And when this person dies,
yeah.
class.
Fin
So so
drop.
to know the source work and to know like how to like do transition before and to have that in mind and to be onto it, like I think is very, very important.
I have a story to share on the source work, but first, the other parts of the answer, as I see them or as we're trying to create them, is this. One is actually creating stable working conditions, basically, for what we're doing, right? Because in the regenerative space, so many people have been extracting of themselves, have been exploiting themselves, have done this, with barely making a living. And that is not how this is supposed to be, right? So bringing in the systemic funding structures, and I know we are working on it, many other people are working on it now, and I do think we're going to see a lot of that over the next year or two. The other thing is, how do people actually grow into this without having to walk the darker parts of that path alone, right? How do they grow into this while being held? And the way that I see this is by creating these projects also in a much more systemic way, by making them part of a bigger whole, by providing the infrastructure, not just in the traditional sense of business accelerators or venture studios, but also of holding that inner development as a key part of this.
Key part. key part. But here's the thing. If you're a part of a community and this community is onto healing and trauma work and da da da, and it goes on and on and on, you get exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, and actually not healthy. Like, so if you can find a way that says, like, okay, so every third month we work 4 days on this. And then every week we have happy training. Is it, you can't just teach humans how to heal and how to work on their traumas and get out of that and become free. And you have to do it fully, because if you don't do it fully, it just becomes a repeating pattern and you can go forever. Do ayahuasca, do retreats, and nothing happens. You have to do it fully. And then if you do it fully, what traumatized you as a child should become your full potential. Let me say something about that. So if you have been told all your life that you're an idiot, and you believe that even, and then you start working on that, but still it's lingering, you're not an idiot, you're not an idiot, but the feeling is still there. And still someone can say, oh, you didn't manage to do that, and they're right back into the trigger and they feel like an idiot, right? If that person gets to really get down to when that happened, gets to say their no, gets to take down that energy that put them in this position and to reclaim their genius, it's very hard to get out of it. But if that happens, this person will be the person shining in the world, showing that the kind of intelligence that she or he has is the complete opposite of idiocy. And what happened was really that people felt uncomfortable around a child that could see. So now it turns around. When healed, she or he is the one that can see those who are shrinking because they feel they're stupid, and can share from their genius that there is hope, right? So every contraction we have from our childhood in this regard, even self-deceit, when punctured and seen, it becomes a gift that you can use for humanity. But if you're everlasting and just going here on these wounds, you don't grow up, you don't clean up even. So that cleanup work needs to be taken serious, put it into this, and then do the work, right? And then in the between, don't. Because you need to integrate the work and you need to have a life. And then you also need to learn to have joy. Because that stretches you. It stretches you. And it's horrible. It's like, okay, so there's something called happy hour in a bar.
Yes. I've heard of the concept. I haven't been to one.
Even just the word happy hour does something to you, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we can feel pissed off, but if I knew that there was somewhere that was happy hour and I was deeply depressed, I could go there anyway. Just to feel into that, tap into it.
Yeah.
So, and we don't teach our children, like, yeah, you have emotions, you're crying, you're angry, you're this and you're that. But what was joyful today? What are you looking forward to tomorrow? What can we create? It's super important to have this balance. And I wish I'd known before. I've been far too serious in my life, even with my kids, really. Working on it. But
I,
this is the thing for these societies, like to actually have a rhythm that people agrees to, like, yes, let's do that,
yeah.
but not let's drown in developmental work.
And that's the thing, right? For now, our focus at least isn't even on building those communities. It's figuring out how to build these projects at some scale. And for that, my question to you is that I think that building the project is actually a path to learning all of that without being on retreat 24/7, without, doing the whole, how do you feel today? Is your trauma coming up? The way to do that is finding a bunch of relatively mature people, right, who can hold that energy, who can make stuff real from that place. And I would say that in what we're building, the real work of the last 4 years has been finding, a handful of people that can do that. And now with them in place, and please challenge this, like maybe I'm just being incredibly naive about this, but the way that I see this playing out is we're establishing a certain way of working. We're holding a certain kind of coherence. And what I've seen over the years is with great coaches, with great teachers, with masters, whatever you want to call them, um, sure, they can help you with nice tools and they can help you with nice insight. But the one thing that actually really moves the needle is that they're embodied in that knowledge, in that understanding, and they point to it with everything they do and say, directly or indirectly. So that's why I think we don't need that much of the explicit personal development in there. Of course, there are spaces to go deep, and that needs to be included. But maybe it's just a couple of things that I'm counting on here. One is, even if we bring in, more stable funding, even if we have a lot stabler structures than what we had when we started building this, it's still making the impossible possible, right? We're still creating projects that are not straightforward at all. And that creates the challenge every day to move through the unknown. And then, by doing that in a team that knows how to do that, you automatically learn how to hold that space within yourself. And everything, the trauma, the old patterns, the stuff that keeps me from doing that, wants to bring me into fear driven and contraction and collapse, is going to come up. But I'm going to have people around me that can see that and hold me in it. So is that naive, or is that maybe one way of teaching this, especially to the people who didn't
Not
learn?
naive. It's, it's not naive, but it is not a long-term solution. Because if there is things that are constantly coming up, and it will prevent you from being full functionally, like, or to be able to bring your highest into the work, it will have a break on the project.
Yeah.
Like now, let's say that we were six of us sitting together around a fireplace, and then one person goes into a trauma reaction or like trigger, and that trigger is pre-verbal, like it's before language. So the person is just sitting in freeze. That will affect everyone around that fire. Everyone. It will stop like Earth moving. It freezes. It can freeze the whole conversation, everything. If you don't know how to handle that,
Yeah.
that prosper place just became a contraction.
So, I mean, partially we handle this through hierarchy, right? That evil word, meaning that the younger people don't have that much responsibility. So if they fall into that response, it doesn't derail the whole project. That's why we have hopefully more mature leaders. But on that flip side, is there like a toolkit you got sitting at home that you could teach the space holders, that you can teach the people who are supposed to lead this, so that when these situations come up, they can be useful?
Of course, but it wouldn't be useful to like, so if it is a person that is quite stable within themselves, like even super stable people can be triggered at some point, just that fact. But it's if they have the capacity to say, oh, I am triggered, and I think I know what I'm triggered in or about, let me have some time, or help the person to have some time, get out, get into the intellectual again, try and take them up in age, and let them feel into, you have the capacities. Normally you're a teacher or a plumber or whatever that is. Talk to the intellect, you'll drag them up, right, in age. They will be able to come back and sit around that fire, right? But you haven't solved the problem. You haven't helped that person get through that, so that when next person says that word that triggers, it's back to the trigger again. So the need for working through is huge if you're going to come to a place in your life where you are calm, where you don't get easily triggered. Like we all get triggered, but if you work through it, you're not acting or reacting on the trigger,
Okay.
right? So I have a trauma that includes the smell cinnamon, right? So every time I smell cinnamon, that trauma is reactive in me. But because I work through it, I can say, that's the trigger. And no, I'm not in a dangerous situation now. I can choose differently. I don't need to go into reaction, and I can just move on. But it will never be that I'm not triggered by cinnamon. That's a fact, right? So whatever your traumas or whatever happened to you, the trigger will always be there, but work through, you control the trigger, and you can choose differently than going to the wound or the what happened at that point. So that's the point. So if you do have something that you know is triggering you again and again and again, and you don't work through it, make sure that you do work through it, because then the trigger is not putting you into freeze, fight, flight, or anything. You can move through it easily.
What if you try to take it one level deeper at the level of signal versus noise? I think like what I've been taught at one point is to differentiate between signal, the clear, quiet thing coming through, and noise, like every feeling, every impulse that kind of comes with contraction, that comes with it's really hard. It's such a simple concept, but I still find it very hard to verbalize. The trauma response, the triggered thing, it has a distinct feeling in the body. It feels like noise at this point because I've learned, to mark it as such. And the hardest part wasn't even learning to tell the difference. I think we know that quite naturally. The hardest part was building the trust that, yeah, no, noise can actually be ignored. You can just let it pass through. You don't have to act on it. You don't have to do anything with it. If the system is noisy, just sit until signal comes through again. I mean, it is that freaking simple at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, but getting
Well,
there,
that's not deeper.
that's not deeper. Okay.
No, it's not. First of all, you have to have a mastermind to be able to deal with it that way, but you're also detaching from pain. So if you don't take the pain, if you don't feel the pain, if you don't go through it, you will.
Okay, just on that for the record, I don't mean detaching. It's literally just sitting with it. But knowing that for me, it enabled me to actually sit with the pain by knowing that it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean I must act on it, but that made it a lot safer for me to just sit with it and feel it. So I don't mean dismiss, I don't mean, suppress, I don't mean any of that. It's just knowing that the survival response, if we stick to pain that is usually encoded with this, doesn't actually say anything about my current situation. That's to me what's woven into that whole noise concept, that it's
That
not
you can do with your
affecting
head.
now.
You can finally do that with your head, but your body won't get that.
But isn't the body part actually just sitting with it and allowing it to play out in the body? Or am I making that too simple?
Hard to see.
Okay, teach me.
Yeah. Hmm. This is the thing. As I've been working with the field of 30 years, true healing, really true healing, comes when you meet the energy that took you down with an energy back
Mm-hmm.
for you to be able to fully become free.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's one picture that is very, very easy for you to hear or see. Like if I, as a little child, I'm with my family and my father is aggressive and he's angry and he shouts at me, I'm here, he's there. He puts his anger into me. I can't answer because I'm a little girl and he's almost 2 meters high, right?
Yeah.
So what happens in this little girl is she's like, you just wait. One day I will get a man that is bigger than you to take you down. Mhm. And this is how she survives. And she becomes the helper that helps everyone else that gets this inside their body. Your body will remember that all the time, every time you swallowed that. So it literally needs to purge it out.
Mm-hmm.
And before you do that, you actually don't know who you are. It's like you receive poison into your body and you grow up and you think you are yourself, you think you are this and that, and you work and you do whatever, blah, 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 make a family, everything, blah, blah, blah. Then your child becomes 4 or 5 years old and you take yourself in shouting at it.
Mm-hmm.
Then something happens. You start to feel nauseous in your body because you've been holding the poison of that anger on the inside. So you actually don't know who you are even because in your body, there's a memory of someone else. Same with rape, same with any kind of abuse of this kind. So by purging this out, and then I mean fully out, and saying that no, and reclaiming my power, and to say, I am this, you are that, there's a boundary here. And then grow up again in capacity on the inside of you with a freedom you've never felt.
Mm.
There's been made space inside of you where you're like, oh, this is me. Oh, fuck, am I this pure? I didn't know. Wow, there's space. I can breathe. You see this happening to people. You see, like, it's like they can't fathom. I was full of shit and it wasn't even mine.
Mm-hmm.
So you need your body to release
Yeah.
whatever has been stuck inside of it. And that's not a mind process, it's a physical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I probably sort of should have said more of a frame around that then. Like the way why I describe this as so simple is, I mean, it's after 20 years of somatic work and learning how to release and let go as a physical thing. And you're completely right. When I first heard about that, 20, 25 years ago, I was like, okay, I'm gonna let go. Wait, do I actually have a feeling? Oh, yeah, right. There's stuff in my body. I wasn't aware. Um, what I heard and what you said, and it tracks with what I've seen and with my experience, is it's an inner physical skill to allow, like, to first witness that energy and then to allow it to do whatever it needs to do. And you're also right, it definitely always comes, usually not with one, but with many situations out in the real world where that same energy, that same pattern could play itself out, but now it gets played out differently.
Yeah, it changes because when you reclaim
Yeah.
yourself, you make a decision. I'm now never going to swallow that shit again. Never. That was unpleasant. Purging for 3 hours was no fun. So, no, it's going to be a no. Anyone that wants to do this to me, it's a clear no. And you also become very aware about other people that do that, parents that does this to their children. You see it and you will be responsible. So, but the thing is that when you've worked through most of your traumas, what you're talking about, the signal and the noise, of course you can work that way. But you have to get through them, like to do the cleanse up first. And in a way, what you're sharing that is to be the grown up. Because you've gone through so many processes, you heal so much, you're not surprised, you're not clicking, you don't go into rage uncontrolled, you don't shout at people, you've understood who you are and you're content with who you are, and then you can take the signal or listen just to the noise and let it go. But you can't do that if you haven't fully worked through yet. And if you're doing that and you haven't worked fully, I would say, yeah, it will take some years and then you have to start back on zero again.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the fully part, as I said, I'm not sure if that ever happens. Talk about childhood stuff, right? My parents are here. It was literally kind of what you described now, that, but the way that it plays itself out differently is that this clear no from the child comes up and is finally heard. And it's not that my adult tries to say, well, your parents are 86, you should just take it. It's like, no, no, we're going to honor that no. Um, that doesn't mean I'm gonna go ballistic on you guys right now, but we are gonna honor that no. And you guys can sulk about it, even though you're 86, because we're not playing that way anymore. But maybe,
The difficulty is that very often in societies, and especially if we live together in clusters, the whole group would know what is the problem with you, but you, right? So you can have a whole group is like, oh my God, everyone is like, why does he need to take so much time? He's talking all the time. You think he's so smart, la 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 la. But dude, the way he treats his blah blah blah, and then you have it going. So by having like clear times set to do deep work
yeah,
is in my world essential to create something new in this world.
yeah,
Essential.
agreed.
And that is the beauty of coming together and really, if there can be enough elders that can surrender to the divine, if there is the capacity is there, it should be quite safe to go down.
Yeah,
It should be safe to heal. And it should be safe to see, oh my God, she got her powers. I want to do that too.
yeah,
Like it shouldn't be somewhere you go to, no, no, let's go to the dark hole. Like if you're truly doing the work, it should enlighten, it should release, it should bring emergence of something positive out of it.
yeah,
When you change dark to light, it should have an effect. So it shouldn't be something, oh no, it's week 4, we all have to do this shit again. No, it should be like, okay, I'm looking forward to because now I know what to work on.
and emergence and sensing, right? I mean, stupid, silly little example. We have two different check-in modes on our calls. I'm sure you're aware, right? In the impact regenerative space, whatever, you can be in environments where the check-ins take up half of the call because everybody gets to share their feelings and stuff. That is beautiful on many levels, but you don't get shit done that way. So we have is everybody good enough to just show up for the call today? And we have our spaces, where we definitely go deeper with each other, but is everybody good enough? Yeah, okay, go, go, go. And if not, then we stop everything else and we do look at that if it needs to be addressed that day. And then there is, the deep check-in and how are you and what's really going on, and let's look at it together. It's still prioritizing the human bit when it needs to be prioritized, but not turning it into an empty ritual of, yay, let's all share and be so.
So good. Like you see, I can't be a member of any kind of groups that has that because people see my face and they go, no matter what. So it's better to have like every Thursday, every fourth Thursday, then we're open. Hold yourself until then, and then we work because there is something about depends on who is in that group.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tend to like if I drop in somewhere, like that group goes there no matter what. So if I'm going to be with you in these groups, let's work and short check-ins. And then if someone needs to work, they can contact later. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's look at what this call is starting today for a minute at least, right? It's looking at this entire systemic space, systemic funding, systemic leadership, and trying to figure out a recipe for something that is emergent, that we have a taste for, like we have a sense of what is emerging, we have a vision for what we want to build in the world, but the actual how of it is, it confines itself to structure, I would say so far. The exact step-by-step thing, it has to be figured out as we do it. So,
I just talked to Daniel. We had a chat, Schmuckenberger and I, and he says like, Alanya, like really, if there is something that is needed, is parents. Like what you're actually talking about is not leadership; it's grown-up parents.
mm,
Like that capacity that is willing to listen to people, is willing to be there for, and willing to share their knowledge, and willing to be with through pain, blah 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 blah. And who wants to be a parent for a whole village? Mm.
I was gonna
We
say,
need to be many. Come on, don't leave me alone. So, but really, that capacity to whatever we built, we need to have people that are grown-ups that are at home in themselves as like first priority.
yeah,
Yeah, because it's like we can't, we, I can't see it without that. Actually, I can't. If so, it was no. It's the other half of life where you give back,
yeah,
and it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. But also, I need to. I don't want to be at a place with all grumpy people. No, they need to be fucking alive and to thrive in what they're doing.
yeah,
So I do come back to this because we can build as much structures as we want, but if we put the 40 depressive people together, it's going to be very hard. And I ain't going to go there. We need to learn how to live, how to create a life that's not only how help me,
yeah.
prosperous in money, but also prosperous in feeling meaning, feeling well, feeling like there's
Did
something
you did
that
you
everyone
ever look
wants.
closely at the camper that I'm sitting in? Did we ever do the philosophy tour?
No.
Like the whole concept of elegant earth is written on this thing, right? All the principles are on this thing, and it's kind of connected by one blue line. And right here behind me at the door, there is written in very tiny letters in the middle of the connecting line the little word joy, right? Because that's the freaking thing that holds it all together, and that is the guiding star, the North Star in this. And I mean, what I wanted to ask 2 minutes ago is, yeah, we're kind of talking this systemic leadership research group because leadership, at least, is a term that everybody, kind of recognizes. But it really seems to be the wrong term. Like it definitely has nothing to do with heroic leadership. It's the opposite of it. It's, I mean, let's talk about source for a second, maybe, because yes, the function of source is to kind of point towards what's next, right? And to know where this project wants to evolve to. But one of the key problems in our space is that usually we're not in a situation, we're not in a community where, you have the old hierarchy of somebody gives the order and then everybody marches, but it's knowing exactly where this needs to go next and then having to share this in a way so everybody wants to go there. And I mean, bless my father, one piece of leadership advice that I got from him, because he built a school, like a very, very integrated school, you know, many decades ago when that was normal. And he said to me, look, when you want to do stuff like this and you have an idea, then you have to share them with the people, with your colleagues, and then you have to wait until it gets brought back to you that they want to do this as their idea. And then you can never ever tell them that it was your idea. You know, it's it's all of that. And I'm curious to hear all of your reflection on that. But I think nobody would want that job if there wasn't so much of that deep joy in it, and the heartache and the pain and so on and so forth. But
Yeah, but there is
that's the
also
pain of
something that is called the calling, right?
yeah.
It's not necessarily very joyful. You can make it joyful,
But
but as humanity is awakening, more and more people will become aware of their genius and what they are to contribute with. But there has to be places that says like, we're waiting for your genius, we're waiting for your capacity, and that people can own their own capacity and be at, because if you're just like, people talk about manifestors and generators and so generators, so you can just give a message to the generator and he will just work, 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 work. Mm-mm.
mm,
Mm-mm. Even a generator needs to feel that this is meaningful. I want to do this, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So there is, but I'm like, for what any kind of leadership, we need to have discernment of the maturity. No, not mature.
maturity. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, matureship. We should have instead
That's
of
a good
leadership,
term. I like that.
matureship. Yeah,
Yeah.
because there is something about like, people come up to me like, "Oh, Alanya, I have an idea. I've been working for years," and they're 27. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, look, 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 and I'm like, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Do you know what it takes to make it happen? Yeah, I thought you could do that. Take that. It's like, yeah, thank you. But it will have to be that there is a collective rising to the occasion. So, yes, you have to share your vision. You have to share where you want to go, what you want to create. And then it has to be a collective that says that, yeah, I have a part in this.
Yeah.
And this is what Peter Koenig says also is so important. It's like, yeah, be the source, attract. But when people come and say, well, I will take this part, well, then they are the source of that part and let them be that. And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of this. So, uh, if there is someone that is stupid enough to say, I'll take the human part, God bless you. God bless them. But it's like, there has to be something for us to understand that we are cracking a lot of um, previous held structures that now needs to flow in a different way.
Yeah.
So young people actually will need to learn to have some kind of responsibility, even if they don't have much. But what they do have responsibility over, they have responsibility over. This is hard for a young person to take that just wants to be free. But in a community like this, or whatever we're building, of structures or leaders, like you can be a self-leader, and that's what I'm always talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about being a leader with a big L in the world.
Yeah.
I'm talking about become a self-leader.
Yeah.
Who knows how to lead yourself, right?
Mm.
If you become a very good self-leader, then you will be an inspiration for others, for them how to lead themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for people that are leading themselves so beautifully that you get inspired to see how they live, how they walk, how they do their life.
And that gets us back to the joy thing. Like I think in what you said, you just defined not just what the core purpose of this group is, that is forming around this, but of all the work, all the structures that we're building, right? The capital structures, the venture building structures, the physical projects. Um, all of that is supposed to be there to create a scaffolding that makes it easier for this job to be joyful 51% of the time, right? That it's not existential all the time, that it's not the lonely, figuring things out, being pioneers on the edge. But if we want to get more people to engage with this, then it's gonna be because we seem to be having a really good time doing it. And for that, yeah, a lot of this needs to be made a little bit easier. And that definitely also extends to the how do I learn this, right? Do I figure this out alone in the dark woods, banging my head against every branch that crosses my way? Or do I have people
Ah,
around me that guide me?
you come and you do that gathering that is every fourth week for
Yeah,
your self growth. And
yeah,
like this is what I'm saying. Like I wish there were a place where people could actually say, I want to work through this and that, and they can go and stay as long as they need to get through.
mhm,
Because for some person, that might take 2 weeks. For another person, it might take a year,
yeah,
and both are fine. But it's like the if there's anything we can inspire the younger people to, it's to learn to lead yourself. And in that, you have to learn to lead yourself into your shit as well.
yeah,
And learn that leadership is the best way to become a leader of yourself. Because then you actually learn. The people that grow up like that's like they're so careful that they're not putting themselves in any kind of situation where they could be seen, so they could be tapped on, or like they're just trying to survive this life by doing the right thing. Don't, please, 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 don't, please, please. What the kind of life would that be?
yeah.
Fucking boring.
Plus,
and
yeah, but
and that's
that's that's the core pain here also to me that is driving that, right? Because if people don't get past that point, if they live the life from those constraints, then that to me is the saddest thing in the world.
it is sad.
Yeah.
But it also is like me as a person, I'm terrifying, intimidating to a lot of people.
I wonder why I never got that.
Then they say, well, it's so easy for you, Alanja Forsberg. It's like, oh, right.
Right.
Well, learn to take risk, and then you'll see.
Okay. You just gave me three jumping off points. Learn to take risk, common community, continue this work because one, we have a boat event in Paris coming up in a couple of weeks. That is where we're going to continue to talk about this inner development. And it's also a jumping off point for Coligali. So are we going to see you at Coligali in June? Do you know yet?
Yes,
Nice. So just to give this a bit of context, the event that I'm talking about, we're going to have links somewhere around wherever this gets published. In Paris is on a boat, and we're going to dive deep into actually doing something instead of just sitting together in a room and talking. But it's limited risk, so you just have to go there for 3, 4 hours and be on a boat with us. Coligali is going to be a bit more intense, and that I think could, well, no, not could, like this will become one of those places where people can come for a long time, do the work, do the work on the land, help make this sort of place real, and grow into this with guidance.
can't wait. I'm excited. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.